Welcome to the call today. We're going to be talking about creating a powerful self-image. This is one of the most important aspects of the teaching series that we're doing on becoming an unstoppable salesperson. And the reason why this is so important is because if you do not have a powerful self-image, then you cannot operate at a high level of confidence that it takes to do, frankly, whatever you're going to do in life. So we're going to go through this little teaching today, and some of the topics today we'll be talking about is the power of self-talk and the power of mental rehearsals, and then finally the power of written affirmative affirmation. This is very, very important. For those of you that work on yourself and are part of self-help and you know the power of this, this is a very important subject. We want to have it here for our university. So let's go ahead and get started. One of the most important aspects of this teaching is how do I grow my self-image into an unstoppable agent, sales agent. Without a powerful and confident self-image, you cannot successfully do what you're called to do. You operate and perform at whatever level your self-image has grown into. Many people in programs teach motivation and some of the other subjects we cover. However, most of them fail to properly address the self-image. So what's interesting is that a lot of programs will motivate people, they'll teach them about all these other things, but they never address the self-image, which is one of the most important things. If people are motivated, that can last for a few weeks. They'll get excited, they'll start making some changes for a little while. But if they don't see a change in actually who they are and don't believe something different about themselves, then it just all fades away and they go right back to where they were because they never really addressed the self-image. So we're going to break down some of the key areas that are crucial when it comes to your self-image and building strong confidence. These teachings are useful when it comes to not only sales but also used in other areas of your life. Remember, your self-image is how you see yourself, and you can only perform at a level where you actually see yourself performing at. Your self-image is built upon many years of your parents' experiences, words spoken to you by others, and how you spoke to yourself. Some people had the privilege of parents who helped build into them the powerful self-image, but it is sad to say that a number of people struggle their whole life with their self-image. This training is to help you break out of the confinement of your old self-image. It is time to be all you are called to be and lose all the self-doubt that has kept you from your well-deserved success. This part of our study is not going to get into knowing your stuff. And what I mean by that, we're not going to be talking about your abilities, your knowledge, your skill sets, or products about Agora. How many times have we seen people with great abilities and knowledge, and they just choke under pressure? We're going to get into the brass tacks of the mental game behind a strong self-image. Once you master this, you will become an unstoppable sales agent if you're not one already. For some of you, this will reinforce what you already know and strengthen you. For others, this will be life-changing as you implement these valuable principles. So let's go ahead and get into the first one, the power of self-talk. The way you talk to yourself has a huge impact on your self-image. If you don't believe in yourself and talk highly about yourself, how will others? It all starts with you and ends with you. So many people make so many self-defeating statements to themselves every day. It's a wonder to have any success at all. This can be called negative thinking. Many people don't realize the running dialogue they are having within themselves has a big influence on how they feel about who they are. Making statements like, it is just like me, plays an important role in how you see yourself. We'll get in here. So positive self-talk is just an optimistic voice in your own head that always sees things in a positive light. It also sees yourself as smart, good-natured, and highly successful at whatever you do. An example, here's some example of some positive self-talk. I'm doing the best I can. This will work out. Things always work out great for me. I am the best at what I do. Even if things don't work out the way I planned, it will still work in my favor because it always does. It's just like me to get this big sell. It's just like me to win this competition. I'm always successful at whatever I do. Experts estimate that the mind thinks about 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That averages to about 25,000 to 33,300 thoughts per hour. Can you see how important it is to control these thoughts? With all these thoughts going on, you can only consciously think about one thing at a time, and this one thing you were thinking about, you have control over. So with all these thoughts that are taking place in your mind and that are taking place every single day in your conscious, you have your subconscious mind going on, we don't have, you can think, well, that's a lot of thoughts going on. Well, your mind can only think about one thing at a time. It can either be positive or it can be negative. It can't be both at the same time. And most people are just succumb to all these thoughts and whatever is thrown at them and don't realize this whole language going on. But you actually have control over that thought. And when you master the thought one by one, this is how you take back your thought life. A lot of people just don't have any control over their thought life. Things happen to them. And we'll get into this. The good news is the more you work on improving your self-talk, the easier it becomes to control what your mind is thinking. If you're not used to thinking positively, then this can be tough at first. So below are some ways to change the dialogue of your self-talk. 1, just listen to what you're saying about yourself. Stop and take notice of what your inner voice is saying. You can't change it if you can't recognize it. Is your self-talk mostly positive or negative? 2, challenge your self-talk. See if there's any evidence to any negative thought you are speaking to yourself. Are you talking bad about yourself? Would you allow anyone else to say to you what you were saying to yourself? Are you being your own worst enemy? And 3, change your self-talk to positive statements. If you catch yourself saying something negative, then reverse it into a positive statement. Instead of saying, I can't seem to get the sales or income I want, change it to, I will learn to get the sales and income I want because I will learn, because I learn, and because I'm always successful. So here, and when you're talking about you as a person and your self-talk, remember, it's your image. So just like me is important, we were talking about it earlier. That's why you want to make statements like, this is just like me to get the big sale. That's talking about your self-image. This is just like me to be successful. It is just like me to close this deal. It is just like me to learn and get better at selling. It is just like me to reach my sales goals. It is just like me to be the top producer in this company. It is just like me to beat my own record each month. It is just like me to have the fastest growing team in Agora. It is just like me to have the highest performing organization in Agora Advantage. So these are statements that you're making about yourself. Now, this works actually, what comes out of your mouth also. You need to listen to what you're saying, challenge what you're saying, and change what you're saying. So not only do you need to control your thought life, but you also need to control what you're actually saying, because it all starts with your thoughts and it comes out your mouth. One other thing also, it's important to be careful to listen to what others say about you. You have to protect your self-image from negative people who do not believe in you. This could be family members or longtime friends. You may have to separate yourself from people who keep putting you into a box. If someone makes a statement about you that doesn't line up with who you are or who you're working on becoming, then you have the right to challenge what they said and reverse it into something positive. Other people's thoughts and words can be powerful. When someone says something, it makes you think about it, and if it's positive, you're empowered. If it's negative, it can be demoralizing and take days, weeks, or months to mentally recover from their negative words. When you're setting a goal and you're trying to accomplish something and someone you care about says something negative to you and doesn't believe in you, and I'm sure this happened to everyone that's listening to this call, it can be demoralizing, and some people never recover from it. If it happens when they're kids, they don't recover from it. So one thing that I've learned, it's already hard enough to stay positive in a negative world. You can't afford that bad influence in life. I found in life, if someone says something negative to me about me, I call them on it right then and there. I don't let it just go because I know I'm going to have to deal with it 3 days later. But I've learned if I address it right then and there, I don't deal with it later because I just grab that thought by the horns and I take it down. You don't have to be mean or rude to them, but say, hey, you know what? That's not true. Don't speak that about me. And if they don't quit, if they don't change their attitude, then that's probably someone you don't want to be hanging and spend a lot of time out because, you know, they're having a bad influence on you. And those words can really have an impact on you. This helps so I don't have to deal with it in my thought life for the next few days. If you don't deal with it, it can have a heavy impact on your self-image. People speaking to people can have a very, very heavy impact. So you have to be very, very careful to make sure that no one speaks into your self-image because it's just brutal. And we've all gone through it. Kids are really bad at this growing up. So let's get into the next section here. The power of mental rehearsals. Now, this is probably one of the most exciting parts of this training. Last week I told the story of Captain Jack Fellows. Jack was a Navy pilot who was shot down during the Vietnam War. He became a prisoner of war for 6 long years. During that time, he learned many things about his mind and refers to people living in a box. He says he was freed from mental blockades while spending years in a harsh environment. One of the things he taught himself was that he could control what he thought about. He loved to golf and would spend hours rehearsing, seeing himself play golf in his mind. So when he's in captivity, it was such a negative environment, but he chose to stay positive, think about other things, he didn't let the environment get to him or bring him down. He stayed above it mentally. And one of the things he did is he would just spend time in his mind playing golf. He would envision him hitting the ball and going right in, and he just worked on the rehearsals. So before he was shot down, he was an average golfer. What Jack would do is he would rehearse in his mind playing golf and getting better at his game. So he saw him just having perfect games. He would see himself hitting the ball and going into the hole. He stayed positive. He would feel himself hitting a perfect shot. One of the first things he wanted to do when he was released from prison after 6 years was play a game of golf. He went to a golf course, and there were some retired Navy guys who helped him. He was thin, and let me remind you, he had not actually played golf for over 6 years. He'd only played in his mind. That day, an amazing thing occurred. He shot par. He had never in his life shot par. The men were amazed. He told them, when they asked him, it was just like me to hit par because he'd been putting par for the last 6 years while he was in prison, and he couldn't see it any other way. It happened just like he saw it. This story is so amazing when it shows the power of the mind. This story influenced Lanny Basham, which went on to use these principles to teach the Navy SEALs, to take FBI gold medalists, Olympic gold medals. They actually used this as a standard, and it was so amazing. And what's interesting, the one guy that led the sniper school for the Navy SEALs, he said that when they implemented this had the #1 largest effect on the Navy SEALs training camp. There were people that started getting scores that had never been done in the history of the Navy SEALs with the snipers. And if you know anything about the snipers, you know, you go with the Navy SEALs, you know, they're the ones that 3 of them, you know, took out those when that captain was taken captive by the Somalians, and the 3 snipers took him out with the 3 shots. Then you have the #1 sniper that the whole movie was about, and he became the #1 sniper with the most kills in American history. But they went through this teaching. They went through this type of training. This is what they learned. You know, Olympian gold medalists go through this training. And so what's exciting about this, studies have actually shown that your mind cannot tell the difference between what actually happens and what you mentally envision happening. Neural pathways are created in your mind when you hear something over and over again in your mind, meaning that your mind can't tell the difference of what has happened to you and what you're envisioning or what you're mentally rehearsing. So when you mentally rehearse it, it's like you're practicing. So a lot of Olympian gold medals, they will just practice over and over in their mind, getting the shot. They call it dry runs, or they'll spend hours doing it. and they may not even be doing this sport. Michael Jordan practiced this, saw himself hitting these shots, and you know what? Then when it comes clutch time, they knock it out of the park, and they perform with confidence. This really helps your self-image. Is just rehearsing in your mind. So whatever goal you're trying to accomplish, you can rehearse it in your mind over and over again. Make sure you see yourself doing it perfectly. You can also envision yourself getting better and better. Many gold medalists do this over and over, and I went into here some of the people here. Just imagine the confidence you'll gain by rehearsing you being successful at sales. When I did Yellow Pages, I would rehearse in my mind, go over, and see myself going in, see myself closing the deal, seeing themselves buying big. I use this. I've been using this in my sales experience, and I became number one at sell in different companies I worked for. I became the top producer, and this is one of the secrets that I used. And I've gotten more into it, and I understand the science behind it. And this is something that's very, very exciting. A lot of people, this can be a secret tool that can help you accomplish great, great things or whatever you want to do in life. So as an unstoppable Agora sales agent, rehearse in your mind making sales. See yourself closing deals in person over the phone. Rehearse what you will do if you hit a roadblock or if the client has an objection. This really does work. You will be amazed at the confidence you will gain by rehearsing over and over again. So I've been going over this information in the last month, preparing for to do these trainings here with Agora. And I'm actually not much of a golfer, so I was reading through here and going through this. And I have probably golfed now 4 times in my life, and 2 of those are within the last month. So when I went in and I was going back over this about the power of mental rehearsals, well, one of my leads groups which with Dr. Funk, meets at Top Golf. So when I went there, I played the first time. And then I started reading this and getting this. I thought, you know what? Why don't you practice in your mind this same principle? Because I'm not much of a golfer. And I started rehearsing in my mind the last time I went, and rehearsing in my mind playing golf, how it would feel, and shooting the ball. Well, that day, which just happened just a couple weeks ago, I even took a picture of it. I actually got a hole in one. And they were utterly amazed, the odds of getting a hole in one. And I've only golfed 4 times in my life, but I mentally rehearsed doing it. This is just something I've done in different areas of my life, and it just flat out works. And you see the science behind it. And everyone that does this, all the way from stars, superstars, people that it's an exciting area to get into, and there's really no limit. And this story here just tops it off with Captain Jack Fellows, because he didn't even golf at all for 6 years and comes out and hits par. Just absolutely amazing. This can really build your self-image, because it also gives you the confidence when you walk into different places, because you've already been there mentally. And the more you've been there mentally, the more you will feel confident and have a greater self-image. So one of the final areas of today's teaching I want to get into is the power of written affirmative affirmation. So when you put all this together, you got your self-talk, right? How you're talking to yourself, making sure nothing negative is coming out, making sure you're not around negative people that are influencing your self-image. You're doing mental rehearsals. The final step of this teaching is with the power of written affirmative affirmation, you change anything you do not like about your self-image. This tool can be used effectively for increasing productivity and creating a winning self-image. An affirmative affirmation is a paragraph written in the first-person tense that describes a goal, reward for meeting the goal, plan to reach the goal, and attitude that will affect the goal. This is written down or printed out and placed in key areas around your home or workplace. When read, spoken, and rehearsed repetitively, it will cause the self-image to change. Now, so what you want to do is, the self-image doesn't change overnight. In fact, your self-image, and if it did, it's actually good it doesn't, because that stabilizes you. But when someone has been negative, and they start to get into this, and they start to doing the rehearsals, they start working on their self-speech, your self-image is not going to just change easily. And what will happen is they'll get into it, and because it doesn't change easy, it doesn't change overnight, that they get discouraged and they quit before the change actually takes place. And then they just go right back to where they were. They say it doesn't work, and then they never really get to experience that change in their self-image, and they don't see success. They don't get the whole one. Their performance doesn't change. It's like, it doesn't work, and they give up. But experts say it takes about 21 days to change your self-image or a habit. So you have to stay on this constantly in the first 21 days, especially if you're very negative. It depends on how negative you are and how low of a self-image you have, or in that area that you're trying to change. But if done properly, your self-image can and will conform to this new way of seeing yourself. If done on a regular basis, there is no end to who you can become or accomplish. So I'm going to get into this, how to do this, but I know, I have these written up around in my key areas in my room where I wake up my first turn. I got one on my wall. I've got one by my door. I've got one in my office right here. I've got two actually in my office, different places I look. I got one in my bathroom, and then I also have one in my car. So I pull it out and I have my different affirmative affirmation. And this is very, very powerful. So if someone's self-image is only being okay as a sales agent, they might start off the month great. So what I want to talk about is what happens to your self-image and your performance is that, let's say someone has a certain self-image that they're an okay salesperson. So let's say the first week of the month, they might start out really, really doing good. But then their self-image, which you can call your comfort zone, when you start to get to the last of the month, will just die off, and they don't end good because they just stay within the average. So what happens is that your self-image keeps you right to where you see yourself. Someone could be having a bad month, and then towards the end it might pick up. But with someone that has a powerful self-image and that has goals to be number one or unstoppable, they just keep on going strong the whole way through. And they break records. They just do some amazing things. When I was first started doing this when I was younger, I was working with a company called Earthlink, and they had a goal of, or they said the number one day was like 27 saves in a day. And I wanted to break that. And it took me a while to get to 25, to get to 26. And I remember on the day that I broke it, because I just stayed at it, I didn't quit, I didn't give up. They would say you have to have about 120 calls to close, to break the record. How many calls we took. You figure if you take more calls, you close more deals. Well, I ended up breaking the record with 32 saves that day, and I did it with 40 phone calls. And they were just utterly amazed. They'd never seen anything like it. And it just shows the power of setting a goal, speaking, staying, and pushing with it. And I just didn't quit. I wouldn't allow myself to quit because I would get to 25 and 26, and it just seemed like I'm not getting past that goal, and it was tough. It's like a precipice. You have to push past it. But one thing I've learned is that by doing this, and what happens if you stay at it, and when you feel that negativity coming in, you just say no, I'm staying at it. You keep doing it. You speak it. You say it. You speak it. You say it. You do it. What ends up happening is one day you wake up and it just changes on you, and you're like, oh. And it just becomes a part of who you are. And then all of a sudden now your self-image has changed. But there's a lot of resistance, and it does take some time. And this is just something I've learned throughout the years when I'm working on myself and trying to change something or set a goal. I have to stay with it. And I know that I'm going to go through those different times. But then it's just amazing. One day you wake up and it's just changed. And you go, wow. And then you just stay with it, so you reinforce it and you never go back to who you were. So how do I write an affirmative affirmation? Here are the steps. Step one, you want to define your goal. So here's an example. Make $10,000 a month at Agora Advantage. Step two, set a time limit to your goal. Okay, I want to reach this within 3 months. Step three, list the reward for meeting the goal. I'll be able to live the life of my dreams and have financial freedom. Step four, outline the plan to achieve the goal, which means what type of work are you going to put behind it? I will accomplish this goal by running my mental program daily, making sure my self-talk is always positive and in alignment with my goals, rehearsing closing deals and big sales on a regular basis, studying and getting very familiar with the products I'm going to be selling in the marketplace, encouraging my downline to follow my example. Work hard and either make enough calls or contact enough clients in order to reach my goal. So you have to have, what type of work you're going to put behind it. So like Michael Jordan or Stephen Curry, these guys will say, I want to be you want to be the number one basketball player, break some record, they also put the work in behind it. But there's a lot of people that put work in and they never, there's a lot of basketball players that put a ton of work in, but they don't set a goal for certain things, and so they stay right there where they're at, and they don't become the best or number one, or they don't get on the all-star team. They might have made it to the NBA, but maybe that was your goal, just to get the NBA. So it all depends on what your goal is. What is your goal? So you want to make sure it's realistic in a realistic time frame. I just put this down here. You want to run your numbers. How many phone calls do I have to make? You get into there. But you could do all this, how many calls I make, and there could be people working very, very hard and still not make their goals. I know when I was in Yellow Pages, there was people on a Monday, we'd all go in, and we would make the same phone calls, talk to the same amount of people, the same leads, same product, and some people couldn't make any appointments, and I was making appointments left and right. So it's not how hard you work. It's also how positive you are. This is where the mental game comes in. So I'd always try to help people, to try to work on their mental game. The step 5, you want to write an affirmative affirmation. So you want to state the goal as if you're already in possession of it. List the time and reward for reaching this goal. List your plan to reach the goal. Step 6, this is just writing down these things we talked about here. Make at least 5 copies, either handwritten or printed. Step 7, place these copies in key places, such as in your bathroom mirror, refrigerator door, next to your computer, your bedroom door, or as a bookmarker. The point of this is for you to see it and be reminded of your goal on a regular basis. It should be in multiple places that you visit often. And step 8, when you see it, when you walk by and you see this, you want to read it out loud and visualize your affirmative affirmation each time you see it through your day. See yourself as having already made this goal, that it's already done. Make sure you do this for at least 21 days. During this time, you will feel your self-image. Challenge it. Your self-image doesn't change overnight. However, if you stick with the program, you will wake up one day and really start to see yourself in this new light and having this goal. Some people give up or quit early stating this doesn't work, and therefore their self-image stays the same. But there are those who keep at this and get aggressive about it and become the unstoppable sales agent. What you think, say, and write down has a high probability of coming to pass. This works both ways, positively and negatively. Whatever you're thinking about saying, writing down, it's just going to come to pass. There's a probability. And there's enough people that have now done this. This isn't like I'm teaching something new, never heard about it. This is something that's been going on a lot. A lot of people don't practice it, but the ones that do get these type of results. They become number one. They go to trainers, or they go to motivational speakers, or they go to self-help course, or they read books to learn this. Like I said, with a lot of self-help, they don't teach the power of changing the self-image. And so what's happening here by doing this affirmative affirmation, this is one of the most strongest ways to change that self-image. And when your self-image makes that change, it's not long before it manifests in your life and you start to go, wow. And once you've had a few breakthroughs and you've done it a number of times and you see the power of it, you're like, it's very amazing. But, during the process, thoughts will try to hit you like this doesn't work, or why are you doing this, or this is stupid, and those are the thoughts you have to overcome. But this is how life works. And, 90% of life is really how you think about it. Something happens to someone in their past, and they might think about it for years to come. Maybe as a child something bad happened to them. So here's an example. I am an unstoppable Agora sales agent that makes over $10,000 a month within 3 months' time. This gives me the freedom to live the lifestyle of my dreams and have time for my family and things I want to do in life. I make this goal happen through positive self-talk, running my mental rehearsals, motivating my downline, and being an example to them. Hard work, studying, and knowing my products in the Agora marketplace, and making enough daily, weekly contacts with buying clients. So here's the plan of action. This is the goal you stated, who you are. So this is all in confirmation. Whatever you want to do in life, you can do this. Now remember, this is just an example. You feel that's too much or too high of a goal, too little. So if you follow these steps, there are only two outcomes that can occur. Either you will become the person you want to be and reach your goal, or you will stop reading the affirmative affirmation. The goal should be something not too high and not too low. It needs to be realistic and attainable. Figure out the number of calls and types of clients you need to reach the goal and then go to make it happen. So you want to work out your numbers, because you can be discouraged if you set it too high. You also don't want to set it too low. So you got to look, how many calls do I have to make within this 3 months' time? Okay, maybe it's 100 calls a week, 20 calls a day, right, for 5 weeks, puts you at 100. And then if you figure I close a certain amount of them, or what type of products do I have to close. If you're selling a smaller product that doesn't make a high commission, well, then you got to sell a whole bunch more of them. Maybe there's other products that make higher commissions. We have a product coming into Agora in the next couple of weeks where you could actually exceed this with one sale. So I'll be excited. We'll talk about that later. So once you reach your goal, do this process again and again, and achieve whatever goals you desire. So this is something you can keep doing your whole life. Don't just do it one time and stop. These are things that, you need to really have as a part of your lifestyle. You need to be working on yourself. If you work on your self-help, your self-talk, you do your mental rehearsals only for a little while, and you do this and you reach your goal, and then you don't do it again, you can forget this. And, this is something you should really have as a part of your life and everything you do, because this, I've done it when I was younger. I had a goal. I was facing some really tough times, and I need to make a certain amount of money, and it was very challenging. And the job wasn't able to make that money. Well, I ended up having to speak and go through this process without realizing I was going through this process, but I was believing during that time. And I ended up, it was literally about 3 months, and I ended up getting my goal. My boss gave me a raise, and someone actually helped me out with some money during that time that just felt they wanted to help me out. And I didn't even tell them my situation. And things just worked out, and it was pretty powerful. But it did take me some work, and I thought, wow, that was a lot of work. But what I didn't realize is I just had so much negativity in me that I really needed to work on myself. And it's taken me years. But, when I reached my 30s, after changing a lot of my way of thinking, cleaning up a lot of bad things happened in my past, this became something when I got stronger in the business arena. I started having a lot of successes because I just chose to live this way. I chose to think positively. The rehearsal one I didn't know as much. This is something I've really grown to know more. I wish I would have known this a lot more when I was younger. And then writing the positive affirmation, this is something I wish I known more about. Man, if I would have known this stuff when I was a kid, I wish someone would have taught this to me when I was a kid. There's a book out that I was telling one of the people I know, because they have a little child. I thought, hey, you should read this book, and it gets into a lot of this, about raising your kid right, because a lot of it does start with parenting. A lot of people don't have good parenting, and because of it, they struggle with things their whole life, and it's really sad. And this is actually something, my parents, I had a bad life, but they never taught me stuff like this. And you know what? When I played sports, it showed up. I was a good basketball player, but I would choke during games. I didn't play at the same level. And my mental game wasn't as strong, and no one taught me how to have a mental game and what was going on, which then later, when I was 17, I started working on my mental game, and then I actually became a starter and did very well at basketball. But when I was younger, I did not do very well because I would just choke. Okay. So, like I said, when you're setting the goal, these are numbers you can always adjust. So like, let's say you set a goal and you didn't do it right, or you didn't do the work here. You can always adjust. This is something you can adjust and work. But as you perfect this, the goal with the time set and the work behind it, and you actually do the work behind it, and you do all these things right here, you'll start to see great things come to pass. So with that being said, reshaping the mind is like reshaping the body. Someone becomes overweight by repetitive overeating and repetitive lack of working out. Reshaping your mind and how you think takes repetition and watching what you say to yourself, mental rehearsals, and affirmative affirmation. As you stay with this mental program, you will start to see your self-image and attitude begin to change for the better, and your performance will show it. Like I said, this is something that, stars, gold medalists, top performers, FBI, Navy SEALs, Michael Jordan, they all work on their mental game. And because of it, they have the success. We look at the success, but they go, wow, this is what I did to do it. This is the work I put in behind it. So what matters most is how you see yourself. And with that, we'll conclude today's, and I'm excited about the next week. We're going to be talking about conquering fear and performing great under pressure. Everyone have a good day.